The out? What does that even mean?
She said she was giving me the out.
I thought you said it was going well.
It was going great. It was amazing, actually.
So what went wrong?
Well, nothing went wrong. All night, our eyes are locked. I mean, the bartender's coming over to check on us, and we're not even looking away from each other. We respond to him. Nothing is breaking our gaze. It's not like I was looking for this. I wasn't putting myself out there.
You and this woman are talking about relationship stuff while walking the streets of Manhattan.
Yep.
You do know you were pretty much in a rom-com, right? Did you open her car door for her?
Of course.
Did she open your door?
No.
Sounds like bad manners to me.
No, it doesn't.
You have a tendency to only see the good in people. A little bit too much good.
She said I was only making this harder on her because she knew I meant what I was saying.
You're really into her.
The conversation is to be continued.
TBC.
TBC.
You go, boy.
Somewhere in the Garden State, two men, accompanied by two other men, will make a short film in a brewery. Somehow, some way, in 6 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the true story of the out.
Aballo, Onyanta, that's my government. This is the U-Goboy Podcast. Let's get to it. Yahtzee.
Go, boy.
You know what to do. You know what to do. He's just going to play drops for the next 25 minutes. We can actually go and get a soda pop. And I mean,
It's true.
come back.
Yeah, let's do it. It's like let's leave this crisp, refreshing liquid death here and go get some equally not endorsing any of our shows, Coca-Cola. Why not?
He does this in his spare time, by the way. He just plays drops to himself.
I bet. Are the mics even on right now? Probably not. It's just a drop feed. I need to clarify something while we're on the subject of drops, because I'm going to air out my ignorance.
Go for it.
But at the same time, it annoys me. So I got to ask you about something.
Sure.
Who is Don DeMarco and why should I care? Because when it's like, give me 18 Don DeMarcos for that, like, is that flattery or what? Because I do not know who this person is. I don't care enough to look him up. But while we're here, and while I just heard a barrage, I was assaulted by drops for the last 38 seconds. Like, who is he? Please tell me. I'm all fucking ears.
I will tell you, but
Okay.
first of all, it's your boy!
Oh, yeah.
You go, boy! We're live for Saturday night!
Yeah.
I gotta do it. The sponsors make me do it.
Well, I'm here to hijack your show. That's kind of why nobody invites me on, except you and like two other people.
You're fine. I love you. So there's a song called Can't Knock the Hustle,
okay,
with Jay-Z featuring Mary J. Blige off his second album, Reasonable Doubt, classic album. And there's a line in there where something says Dom DeMarco. Mm-hmm. And then DJ Don DeMarco, who's actually a real person, he's from New York as well. He took that as a drop, named himself after it. I'm pretty sure he didn't pay Jay-Z any money and probably tied up in litigation right now. He's been Don DeMarco, or DJ Don DeMarco, for years now. So
gotcha. I
first heard the drop on Fresh and Fit, who are demonetized now, and numerous other podcasts. And I told myself, definitely gonna have a soundboard. Marv said, yeah, we got a soundboard. Okay, I'm recording here. That's it. So the drop god, marvelous. The marvelous with the girl is my favorite one. Like the marvelous. That's Lucille Ball, by the way, I think.
Is it really?
No, it's probably not.
Okay. Why not? Let's just say anecdotally, it's totally Lucille Ball.
It's someone from that time.
Yeah, it is. It's very old-timey, from a time you weren't welcome, and that's why you're using it, because you're like, fuck these people, they're dead.
Exactly.
I get it.
But yes, welcome to the U-Goboy Podcast. I'm U-Goboy. before we get to our illustrious guest who's making his return, his illustrious return.
Encore now an encore presentation of U-Goboy Podcast number 19.
This is like, I forget what number we're on. I think 31 or 32. But
Okay.
But no, this is a special episode. This isn't the standard traditional. It's still unfiltered, authentic conversations, hence the drop. And since the t-shirt and merchandise. Buy the merch, by the way.
Link in the description. Lest we forget.
Link in the bio.
Hey,
this is a special episode. This isn't the standard back and forth, tit for tat.
We're not talking about New York sports.
We're not talking about New York sports. Shout out to Bravery Sports. I'll be recording that next. Shout out to Jason Enrique, love you, dog. Yeah, he'll be here shortly, about an hour.
Awesome.
But no,
We'll still be here too.
Oh yeah, we'll be here.
We won't be done.
2 hours
He'll
later.
be outside
But no, this
looking.
is a special episode. You and me, buddy, made a movie. We made a movie, an independent film. Bring in those applause. Bring them in.
Yes, and apparently, I still don't know why Don DeMarco's a compliment, but maybe like, give us 5 Don DeMarcos just for the hell of it.
He asked for it. Asking you shall receive.
I mean, I still don't know why that's a compliment because Jay-Z said it, some guy stole the name, so I don't know why that's a plus, but whatever.
This is what we do in the black community.
Is that right?
If something's hot, we just make it our own, even if it's from somebody else in the black community. That's how it works.
So look, we all win is what we're saying.
We all
just
win.
like some dude stole the name from a Jay-Z song, and now
it's the same thing with DJ Don Cannon, who I told you about. He's an actual DJ from Philly.
Oh, is that what it is? I thought it was a throwback to the 70s cop show canon.
I'm
but
pretty sure that's where the drop is from.
no shit.
It's from somewhere in the 60s or 50s or 70s, whatever. And the guy needed a drop for his shows in Philadelphia. And he's a very popular DJ in Philly. And yeah. Shout out to Cannon. You owe me money. Don DeMarco, you owe me money. A lot of you guys owe me money.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of you guys.
Because if Bootleg Basquiat isn't taking you to court over, using his drop, then anyway.
I like him with dreads. I like Jay-Z with dreads.
Oh, I'm not saying it's a problem.
nice.
I'm just looking at him and I'm just like, okay, that's what, when you got money like that, I guess
nice.
you're just
Be nice.
licensed to be a weirdo. Sure.
But anywho. but
Anyway,
no, so-
short film.
Yes.
Something about a short film.
The Out, it's a... I don't know where to begin with it. It was an experience.
Because I do.
I know. You wrote it. This guy wrote it. Humble brag over here. A round of applause for this guy.
A little bit.
He wrote it, co-starred in it. Not because he's a narcissist or anything, but because he's very talented.
Oh,
Maybe
thanks.
a sprinkle. Maybe a hint of-
Also low budget. Work with what you got.
But no, we're gonna tell the story of how we made it, and
Yes.
we're gonna recap it. We're gonna talk about Smodcastle. But before we begin that, shout out to all the subscribers across all the channels. Remember, there's 2 channels now: U-Goboy Media, U-Goboy 88, U-Goboy Media. That's for the podcast and also the clips and shorts. U-Goboy 88. That's for all the music. And by the way, speaking of the music, go stream U-Goboy music. We got a new video on the way. I just dropped the trailer for it. Captain Planet. By the time this episode airs, it will be out. Captain Planet, shot by A1 Vision. I Might Snap did the behind the scenes. BTS as always. Killer Cake on the beat. Eddie Heartthrob was the engineer. We shot that in Brooklyn. Some really dope graffiti art. I'll play it for you afterward as well.
Please
too.
do, because I saw the teaser and I'm like, this is going to be cool.
Oh,
I didn't
epic.
realize you teamed up with the Hip Hop Advocates.
Yes, I did. Those
Because
guys are
those
amazing.
dudes are for real. They're big fans of my show, big supporters of mine.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they do a great show.
They'd love to do Cape, by the way.
Same. No, totally.
So
There's-
I'll talk to them and help set that up.
There's a wait list. I really want to get everybody. No, I'm not kidding. Because I'm doing less shows now. It's
Yeah.
like there's so many people want to get on it. I'm torn. I was having this conversation yesterday with my friend Ryan, who's I've been podcasting with since 2010.
Yeah.
And he's just like, whenever you need me, I love this. I'm so proud of you and all of that. On the back of, he didn't make it to the premiere, but it was part of like the larger conversation. And I said, it's kind of weird right now to be torn between wanting to expand the universe and get people on who have yet to do the show, who genuinely like the show. Like that's, there's not much of a barrier to entry to be on the show anyway, but people who genuinely are into the show and the dynamic in this, world I've created, it's great to kind of introduce them and bring them into the family. And at the same time, I also love doing shows where I'm just BSing around with my friends, with kind of the regulars. So I'm always torn between those two things and doing, in this year, 2 groups of 10 episodes. I'm like, I want to get to everybody. I almost don't know how.
Yeah.
So I want to, but they're wish list for sure. They definitely are.
Absolutely.
We're going to make it happen. So I was very excited that you teamed up with them.
Well, they
for
did
this.
first class, second place. I was excited. Well, 2 out of 3 of them did it. The third member could not make it, but so they're making their rounds. Those guys are awesome. It's a great, It's a great video. Can't wait to share it with you guys. So be on the lookout. But again, it'll probably be out by the time this drops, but the teaser is out. So Yahtzee. So let's get to the Out. Let's get to the Out, man. It was an experience. Shout out to Smodcastle, by the way. We'll get to that part of the story as well for holding us down. But Let's start with the origin story.
Yes.
Where did it all start for the out?
So it's based on an actual experience where I was. So you know an abridged version of the story, but you know the actual story. So I was also not seeing somebody, kind of somewhere in between.
Right.
Last summer of 2022. And we just met up for drinks. There was no intention. It's just one of those things where we kept saying like, yeah, we need to get together because we knew each other. We met each other at some events, but like hadn't actually hung out. And it was one of those things we kept saying like, oh, we need to get together and talk and like continue the conversation because we go back and forth through social media and whatnot. And we never actually got together, the two of us, to kind of continue the conversation in person. It just never came together for a while. And then finally she reached out and said, are you free tonight to grab a drink? And I was. So we ended up getting together and just really hit it off, connected in a way that took both of us by surprise, genuinely, because we did not expect that. As much as we knew, like there was a lot of commonality between us. Didn't expect that we were going to kind of connect on the level we did. And then it was a couple weeks later, we actually saw each other, and it was clear there was something going on between us. And that's why at the end of the night, she had the conversation with me, which was, okay, before this goes any further, was very, very honest and vulnerable about herself and saying, so I'm giving you the out, was the actual conversation. And unfortunately, she had to be up in the morning, and this, we're at a bar and we close the place. This is about 1 o'clock, about 1 a.m. ish. And the conversation was not intentionally left on a cliffhanger, but at the same time, I knew enough that, since I wasn't expecting this either, and I wasn't exactly putting myself out there and looking to get involved with anybody or even really looking to date. I just wasn't putting myself out there in that way. Mm-hmm. I kind of wanted to sit back and reflect on it as well and kind of absorb what she had to say and think about it, because it'd be very easy. And that was one of the things we talked about the first night we got together for drinks. Like, it'd be very easy to be impulsive or to just go with whatever this is, or move too fast, in as much as her and I both being of a similar age. The part of the conversation the first night was mistakes we'd made in relationship, or knowing we'd moved too fast, or maybe connected with the wrong people, and or gave too much of ourselves to the wrong people in the past, and kind of recognizing that over time. So anyway, didn't see each other for several weeks and didn't have the follow-up conversation, but I kept having this conversation in my head about the part of you that's the heart, the part that's emotional, that has the crush, that's saying, that is intrigued by something shiny and new, and just like, wow, but this is great, and this is something different, this is something new. And the logical side saying, what about what she said? Mm-hmm. What about, the, not necessarily, pros versus cons, but just kind of being more pragmatic about it.
Right.
And I just kept having this conversation in my head, and I said, well, there's a story in there. Now, interesting fact, in conjunction with this, I talked about the Smodcastle Film Festival earlier that night, in as much as to her. Wow. Because she said she had known about it, and she said, "Are you doing something for it?" And I said, "No." At this point, I was like, I had some people ask me when it was announced if I was going to submit something, and at the time it was like 3 months before the deadline. But at this point, the deadline was 3 weeks away, and I said, "No, I don't have anything, and I don't know what it is I would submit." And she said, in relation, because she knew I did the podcast as well, don't you have this huge archive of material that you save for your show? And I was like, no, that would only make a documentary about how not to run your show, as you now know firsthand. Like, that is not something I would enter in. Like, the archive is full, and I'm not saying it's all gold, but like it's several teachable moments, let's put it that way. But I said, no, I would want to write something and put something together. And she kind of backed me in a corner where she said, you're telling me that you couldn't write something and with your crew put something together and have it ready to submit in 3 weeks? And I literally was like, she had me dead to rights, which was, even to have somebody recognize that and say that in a completely encouraging way, not a put down at all, just to say, like, you're telling me you couldn't put something together. And I'm like, I could totally put something together. And even she knows that. And wow, she's reading me very, very well.
So it's pretty much a triple dog dare.
Basically. Yeah.
That's a savage. That's the first of many. Goodness, go ahead.
And that was part of like why it was in my head anyway.
Yeah.
Where I thought, okay, well, I'm having this conversation. There's a story in here. Let me write this. Didn't tell her I was writing it.
Yeah.
And she didn't ask. Like there wasn't a follow-up conversation about. She knew I was writing something, but she didn't get into it.
No, it was that.
That it was that. Well, that's the thing. She didn't know that I was writing about that, and specifically about this conversation with her and I. I'd just been writing it just to write it because that's kind of where I've learned that's where it has to start. Just write without the expectation. Yeah. In the same way, like we started podcasting with the same thing. Well, we're going to see where it goes, but it's not like, well, I'm going to wait till somebody hires me to write something and then I'll submit. You have to do it on your own, and you have to write about something that you know and that's true to you. And also, I'm thinking, well, this happens within the scale of what I can do in a world where I'm going to be putting it together in 3 weeks. I'm like, it's basically one long scene. It's between two people. It's one location. This is something that can be shot in a low budget guerrilla style if need be, if that's the way I go about this. But I wasn't trying to rush through this and put it together necessarily in 3 weeks. I didn't want to put that pressure on myself to like, let me crank something out just to show that I can do it. But just to write it and I literally did 3 drafts that first week. But that was kind of where it started. And then fast forward to the end of summer, things didn't work out. Things didn't go anywhere. I don't want to say things didn't work out. Like things didn't progress, unfortunately. They didn't go anywhere. So I just kind of left this to the side and said, well, I'm not going to do anything with this, because I also, with it not working out, I didn't want to kind of go back to the optimism of like, well, I wrote this when it seemed like things were going somewhere. So I don't want to revisit it. I'll just let it be. So I had 3 or 4 drafts that were done. And I said, let it go. At the end of October, we had a reading of my feature film screenplay, which I've been trying to get together for a while. I tried to do it before summer because I knew it was going to be impossible to get a dozen people together on one night for the summer, during the summer. And we ended up working it out at the end of October. And friend of the show, Mike Zapsik, said, why don't you do it here? Why don't you do it at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, the most famous comic book store in the world? Okay. Like here I am, which was crazy in itself. And I know this is a little bit outside of specifically with the out, but it was crazy to think that because Cape was on hiatus at this point, so I didn't actually get into this on my show. But the funny thing is, so this is October. This is 2 weeks after my birthday. And it was weird to think about it like, wow, my 30th birthday at the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, just by chance, October 7th, 2011, they were showing Kevin Smith's Jersey films from Clerks through Clerks 2 all day long for free. So I spent my 30th birthday at the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank watching Kevin's films with Ryan and Jack and my girlfriend at the time. And then fast forward 11 years later, I'm friends with his friends and now reading a film that I wrote, a screenplay that I wrote in his comic book store. And then fast forward to another thing that I wrote gets accepted into his festival, playing at his theater. It's insane to me. So there's a lot to absorb at the festival, which we're going to get to that, of course. But anyway, we read this feature screenplay. It was the first writing our friend and coworker, Christian, had read, and he said...
Love you, Chris.
And he said, do you have anything else? And I was like, I wrote the short film over the summer. Like, I'll send it to you with zero expectation. Just like, oh, no, I didn't just write this. Here's something that's tonally different. It's funny, but it's not, this is something different than what we just read. And I sent it to him, and he was just like, in Christian speak, he was just like, this is dope. He's like, let's make this. He's like, I want to produce this with you. Let's put it together. And I hadn't read it or revisited it at all in, 2.5 months. Something like that. But he's like, let's do it. Let's do it early next year. Like, work on it. But it's 12 pages. He's like, maybe tighten it up a little bit and make it a little bit shorter. Now, at that point, I was able to be more objective with it and able to beef up your character, the logical one, and the cynical one. The one who's skeptical and trying to understand his friend's position.
It's me.
Well, as somebody who genuinely is, as you've said, the friend who people come to with stuff like this, have these conversations with, so it fit.
Yeah.
And anyway, he was like, yeah, maybe trim the 12 pages down and tighten it up a little bit. Well, the next draft I wrote was 14 pages. So I sent him a longer draft, which was better. And he agreed was better. And he did appreciate the fact that I didn't, just do, tighten it up for the sake of it. I just made it better,
and
which
that,
was
and that 14 turned into what became now.
Basically, yeah, it got refined. So the point was the goal was we were going to shoot it in the early part of the year because it was at this point it's November, it's holiday season. You're not going to be able to coordinate anything with anybody. But Christian had shot his short film at the beginning of November, and I was a crew. Right? Just Desserts, yeah, which premiered the night before ours, which was insanely exciting. And I worked on that. I'm credited as a production assistant. That's being generous. It was great to be a part of, and also to meet his crew, who he'd done a bunch of projects with.
Yeah.
But he had, or unbeknownst to me, he'd sent the script to a bunch of them already, so they'd read it and they were excited to work on the out. And I'm like, okay, cool. So he'd already kind of started. He was the one who got the wheels turning in the first place, unbeknownst to me. So then fast forward now, it's into January. We shot another short that he wrote that a friend of his was directing, which got his friend into college, essentially, doing this short film. So I'm glad to have been cast in this thing, which I still had to do the audition for and all that. I still had to earn it. It wasn't just my friend can do this, put my friend in it. Cast my friend in your short. That's it. And I'm not above auditioning, even for people we know, just because I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to be there because you actually want me there, and I want to show you I can do it, not just because, we're friends. That only goes so far. Someone still needs to be talented enough. And at that point, the conversation was, because we shot this in mid-January, it was like, I'm looking to do this in 2 weeks. What do you think? Literally, we shot this on a Saturday. I was like, in 2 weeks, the last weekend in January, looking to do this, which was very ambitious and unrealistic. I mean, could have been done if everything was set. If all of the pieces had lined up, but they hadn't yet. I didn't even have somebody. I had somebody in mind who was going to do it and who read an early draft and was interested. I'd actually written it for Christian initially.
Yeah, he had told me that when we liked the video, subscribe to the channel.
That's right.
He had mentioned to me, I forgot this, probably the second or third time I met him. And he was like, by the way, I was supposed to be Ulysses, and you ruined my life by taking it from me.
No, he
didn't say that.
He passed.
No, he
That's
passed.
The thing. He did.
He told me that.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, he told me that.
I wrote it with him in mind because I was like, well, it'll be the perspective, and that's why the early drafts were different, because the tone was like one friend trying to explain to a younger friend what this means and why, and the younger friend kind of questioning it, not necessarily being as skeptical, still being skeptical because he didn't fully understand like why you'd be in this position and why, you and this woman are at a point where you're being to use some therapy speak, intentional with what it is you're doing and how you're going about this. You're being intentional as opposed to getting swept up in, the things her and I talked about on that first night we got drinks, the idea of being kind of being intentional about it instead of just getting caught up and just like, yes, this is great. We like each other. Let's date, So when he said like, I love this, but I don't want to, like, I don't think I can do this. And then there wasn't a Ulysses in mind. So then after the crew was on board, the would-be crew, who shot Just Desserts and this other film, Monster Motivation, which is still in post-production. It's going to come out at some point.
Yeah.
But it served its purpose. It got our boy Andy into school. So anyway, at the point when the wheels were turning in December, we met virtually on Zoom. Yeah. Because Marvelous.
Shout out to Marvelous.
That's right.
Can I get the old lady saying Marvelous, please?
Marvelous. It's probably like Betty Davis or something. Who knows?
Totally.
Bygone era starlet. But anyway, we had met virtually on Zoom, you and I and the aforementioned Jason Enrique.
For the Die Hard.
panel. And we hadn't actually met because, again, it was a couple days before Christmas, literally the week of Christmas we did this. So Marvin said, we all got to get together. Let's have a night out. And we ended up meeting up at a sushi place.
Yeah.
The night before the day we shot Monster Motivation. So that's how quickly this ended up coming together, just by chance. And I didn't even realize that till I went back and looked at my planner, because I write, I keep a yearly planner and I write dates down for different things. Yeah. And I remember going back and thinking, like, when did all this come together? And I'd forgotten, just through, not thinking about it, that we met Friday night and Saturday we shot this film.
Yeah.
Now, you and I just by chance sat together at the sushi restaurant.
Yeah.
And, we all got along because we all got along in the Zoom anyway. We're all of similar similar personality.
Yeah, and I remember meeting you, and the voice matched what I saw on the screen, and the persona and the vibe. And like you just have when you told me you were a voice actor, not shocked whatsoever. You have a very distinct character voice of with like personality. So I'm sitting there talking to you and like I'm paying attention and so forth. But like in my head, I'm just like, this guy's voice, like it sounds like I'm listening to the radio. You know what I mean? But no, we vibed. You were freaking hilarious. We were listening to George's Osei's dead cat lady story, and I just we vibed.
We did, and that's our back and forth was so easy.
Yeah,
I went home. I literally drove home that night, all of 8 minutes. I live so close to the place, but I was thinking, what if Ugo would like to read the script? See if he'd be interested in Ulysses, because we talked. Even though I knew you hadn't acted, I'm like, well, he's a performer, so he can do the thing. Which is kind of what it was. And I was like, well, we get along. And for me, it's not even about necessarily working with the most talented people. Not that the most talented people are, hitting me up, just like, hey, let's do something together. Sam Jackson's not DMing me on Instagram. It's just like, hey, man, let's do something. Like, no, that's not happening yet. But it's the same. Yeah. Let's do something, motherfucker. But I'm not going to try to do Sam Jackson. But anyway, for me, it's more, let's work with people who are easy to work with. You don't need to be an Olympian athlete in your specialty.
Yeah.
If we can work together, that's cool. Like if you're talented and you're easygoing, perfect. And I got that completely from you. So I think it was probably Sunday. I think it was the day after. And I texted you and just like, hey, listen. So I have this script. It's a short film, 2 characters. Are you interested in reading it? Just figured, well, let me float it to him and see what he thinks.
Yeah, and let me jump in there too.
Sure.
When I read it, I saw that it was a lot of dialogue, like a lot.
Well, I set you up though.
Yeah, you teed it up though.
I did, because I said, knowing you're such a Sopranos fan, I was like, you get to be the Dr. Melfi.
Yes.
So that
was your in.
Well, I knew how to sell it. I knew how to sell it to you. I'm like, this dude's gonna be in. If I let him know, like, he gets to be the Dr. Melfi, because I'm like, that's your number one crush.
She's still a fox.
She's top of the heap still.
Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it's like, so I remember reading it the first time, and once I got past all the dialogue and I saw that there wasn't
the
really
volume.
Yeah, the volume.
The volume of words. Like,
and there wasn't.
Oh my god.
There wasn't too much action. I was like, oh, so okay, this is a conversation. So basically, the action is in the words. Like the action is in the dialogue. So I was intrigued, but I still needed a backstory as to what exactly it is that you're trying to do.
Right.
Because I met you and there was a good rapport there, but I still kind of didn't really know you. And when I work with someone and I do business with anybody, it's not so much I'm not transactional anymore. I used to be that way.
Totally.
I used to be that way. Now it's like I'm investing in people, and at the same time, likewise, I want you to know that, one, you can trust me, and B, that we have a chemistry that transcends the work, so that in the future it can be beyond that.
Yes.
So
the mutual interest is building something.
Yes.
But also that there's a genuine friendship there, which we were building in a life imitating art kind of way.
Right,
we were genuinely building through rehearsing this and through getting to know each other's stories and bringing our real life experience to it outside of this experience that I wrote about. You and I talking about relationships and different things, and just women from the past and how we've been and how we've evolved and how we approach relationships.
What sold me was 2 things. 2 things sold me. Number one, just how invested you were in the story. And I mean, obviously you wrote it and it happened, or some version of it happened. So that was part one. Part 2 was the fact that you weren't tyrannical in it. You weren't just like, listen, these are my words, say my words. This is the way I want you to say my words. Boom, 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 boom. That'd have been kind of off-putting for, again, a guy I'm still getting to know.
Totally.
You were very open to suggestion. You were open to collaboration. You were open to fresh ideas. You wanted it to be really a collaborative process and project. And I was like, okay, he's open-minded. I can work with that too. And each time we did it, we went through it, and you got me different revisions of it, and you told me stuff to watch. You was like, "Hey, watch this," or "Take a look at this." And then when I found out I'd seen Heat years ago, but I watched it in its entirety. And I think I think I either texted you or I put it in my story at like 3 a.m. with insomnia. Yeah, and I was like, I get it. Then I rewatched Pulp Fiction for the first time in a while. One of my favorite movies.
Totally.
And I was like, yeah, I get it.
This is every Jules and Vincent conversation.
Absolutely.
This is a version of that.
Literally.
This is a version of the diner scene in Heat, but obviously they're already friends as opposed to kind of kindred. Because that's the thing about Heat, and that's why that movie is so brilliant.
Yeah.
And look, I only really revisited that in August of 2021, and I've watched it probably 10 times since.
Yeah.
And it is a perfect movie.
Yeah,
I will fight anybody on that. Like
Yeah.
there's no fat to trim off of that. But the idea that there's these two characters who are kindred spirits, but are literally on opposite ends of, morality, and opposite ends of the law, not to sound cheesy like that, but that's where the conflict is. But in that diner scene, it's like, we're the only two people who understand each other. Isn't that weird? That we're also essentially enemies?
No, totally.
And that's why that movie's so powerful, is because there's this polarity going on. But there were definitely some scenes I sent you and kind of talked about, different reference points for like, well, this is how I want it to look. And also, it was important for me to let you know, because we both, with having a background in music, with both kind of starting in music and doing versions of comedy and leading up to podcasting and all of that, I want to let you know, like, no, this is for real. This is not me doing my show. This is not purely an act of self-indulgence.
Well, this is a thing.
I'm shooting this, and I'm submitting it to festivals because I also want to show that I can do more than just talking with my friends and making my friends laugh. I do write, I do direct, I do act and perform, and I want to show these other sides of me off in a way that this is something we can produce on a scale that's easy to produce, something that is personal, because there is something, I could write something, that's fantasy. I don't know that I could write a Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or something like that, but something that's real, that rings true to me. And the idea that, like, no, we can do this and put this out there, and also allows us both to flex some different muscles.
Yeah.
That, like, no, I'm not just doing this just for laughs. I'm doing this as something that I genuinely want to put out there to show, like, no, this is what we're capable of. And the people I like.
It was interesting because, too, I'd watched Reservoir Dogs probably rewatched it for like the third or fourth time. Again, I hadn't seen it in a while. I think the first time I saw Reservoir Dogs, I was in prep school. Like, I didn't even know it existed, to be honest with you. I didn't know Tarantino's first movie.
I saw Pulp Fiction first.
Yeah.
And True Romance and Natural Born Killers. And then I was like, oh, he has another movie.
Yeah, he
directed this thing called Reservoir Dogs.
I'd seen reference to it in pop culture, but I never watched the actual movie. So I watched
Exactly.
it. I rewatched it. It was on Netflix for a bit. I don't know if it's still on there. And there's a scene where Tim Roth is basically learning a spiel or learning a script, as you know, and like the other cop or whatever undercover is like walking him through. He's like, just keep saying it and keep saying it and keep saying it, and then it shows him like just living his life for like a month or so, rehearsing this spiel that he's going to use while he's undercover, and I'm just like, oh, that's how they do it. Or some version of that, with acting classes and school and drama and this, that, and the third. But and scene partners and that, but it's like, okay, I also get why he's a Tarantino fan, because just the process and the way he unfolds his stories, I saw elements of that throughout the script, and it was cool. And I'm a Tarantino fan.
There's definitely an influence, and that's why that's what a lot of people asked. Particularly other filmmakers, like, who are your influences? I'm like, well, it'd be hard to deny Tarantino and Kevin Smith, because they're very dialogue heavy in their stuff, and not everything I write is. Certain scenes, obviously, for natural exposition, not for like as we've joked about. And that's why, it's one of the things that people didn't realize our characters had names until the credits rolled.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, listen, if guys are anybody if you're genuinely friends, you're not constantly calling each other by name or giving a lot of clumsy exposition. Like, comedies are guilty of that. Mostly horror movies. It's not like, listen, Edgar, my character's name is Edgar. His name is Ulysses in The Out. Listen, Edgar, we've been friends for 30 years since we sat next to each other in Mrs. Grant's 4th grade class. I know you. I've seen how you are with what. Like, you don't actually talk like that when you talk to your friends.
So slapstick-esque,
it's
1960s. Like,
it's so forced, and like horror movies are guilty of just like, we're going to give you all this back. Like, one character's going to give you all this backstory in a very clumsy way.
Yeah.
Deliver it like, oh, okay, sure, just so the audience knows what's going on. So like, they're not calling each other by name. A couple times you're like, look, man, and I'm like, dude, I've seen a Bronx Tale. Because that's how friends actually talk.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there calling each other by name in actual conversation. So, and at the same time, the movie kind of starts like midway into the conversation. So then it's like, all right, backtrack and tell me everything, which is the idea. Like, okay, let's not start this completely cold. And that's why even, when it came to like my choices as editor of the film as well, I chose some of the early takes because I thought, well, you and I were, not that we had to figure out our rhythm, but it wasn't as smooth. As we went through the day, the takes got more smooth. And I'm like, well, no, the conversation gets more smooth because they're both understanding each other better. So the takes that are a little slower and that are a little less, it's less fluid.
Right.
That's why I did use those. And you said you were inhibited about some of the early takes. You're like, I could have done better. And I'm like, no, I wanted that because this is where they're starting the conversation. It gets smoother the more they understand each other. So it is building the dynamic through the course of, the 12 minutes that it takes place. So that was a conscious choice that I was like, well, let me use the takes where they're still feeling out this conversation because we were. Even though we rehearsed like crazy. And let me just say, I need to give so much credit to this guy because he rehearsed the hell out of this. And he committed. As an actor, he really, really did. He said, that's goddamn right. He said, I've been reading it a couple of times before I go to bed every night. I'm trying to get off book, as they say, memorize it. And we went over it. And yeah, when it came to collaboration, like that was important to me is that it sounded like, again, how people actually talk.
Yeah.
A conversation friends would have, which is why when it came to the way you said like, this is coming out kind of funny. Like this doesn't sound natural to me. How would you say it? And then I go back and the next draft would have it kind of the way you would say it because it's like, well, that's how you talk. And that's, if you can deliver it better than how I wrote it, that's fine. Because something could read really, really well.
Yeah.
And we've had conversations about certain things
for
that
sure.
when you listen to dialogue, you're like, people don't actually talk like this. This is a writer sitting back stroking themselves just like, oh my God, this is so smart and funny. And I don't want to do that. I want it to actually sound like conversation, which is what a lot of people gave me credit for after the screening. That was the writing was the part that people were most complimentary about, which meant a lot to me because primarily my identity is that of a writer. But you worked on it and you wanted to collaborate on it. And I was totally open to that because I just wanted to make a good film.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, not in a selfish way, but like the written by credit is going to me anyway. But everyone's contribution can't be understated. And that's why I will only refer to The Out as our film. Those of us whose names are in the credits, even though my name is there repeatedly because of, wearing different hats, it's still very much our film because it was a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be that. That was important to me. It's about showing what all of us can do.
Yeah.
Even though it started with me, it wouldn't have happened without Christian saying we need to make this.
Yeah.
And you should pursue this.
Or Nick with his greatness.
Oh my God, the fact that Nick showed up.
Love you, Nick.
Yeah, and I wish he was there with us for the premiere, which we should probably jump ahead because the production, just to give the bullet point version, because I don't know how far we are into this. Are we like halfway through the show? We're 40 minutes in, aren't we?
It's 5:17.
Oh my God. So time to go. No. So the crazy thing, and we'll elaborate on this more in the future, but the premiere is a big deal, so we should talk about it. You're also getting the exclusive on this because yours is the first show. Even I haven't done my show since we've done the premiere.
So thank you. Appreciate that.
This is the time to talk and go over specifically the premiere. But we shot it in a day, in 6 hours. I believe it was Monday, March 27th. I should know the date offhand, but we planned for 2 days.
Yeah.
And the whole point, and shout out to Nate, who was supposed to be our DP on the film, who 2 days before had to pull out because he got an excellent opportunity, which has led to a lot more opportunities. Which
and rightfully so.
Totally. And look, he did say to me, like, if this is a really big opportunity, but I committed to you first, I'll say no. If, because I said yes to you first. I'm like, absolutely not. I know this is not personal. It's all business, but he was good enough to be like, if you need help storyboarding, setting up, I will coordinate with Nick, your DP, to do shot preparation, shot lists and all that stuff. He's like, I will help you these next, over this weekend so that Monday you guys can get it done. And I actually don't know how much he and Nick spoke about it, but I was like, no, dude, totally. Like, look, if I got the opportunity you were off to work with the person you worked with, like, it's my short, and I would have been like, sorry, guys, we're not doing it this week.
Yeah, this is gonna
So the fact that everybody was just so helpful, and but he and Christian had said, like, this is a lot. You got 14 pages. We should plan for 2 days. And I'm like, really? In my ambition and my naivete, I was like, we can shoot this in a day. It's all dialogue. It takes place in one scene and blah blah blah. And that's before you and I had rehearsed. We rehearsed a bunch of times in person and a couple of times on Zoom. I sent Christian some of the Zoom rehearsals, and he watched it. And he was like, I think we can do this in a day, but let's plan for 2 just in case. We did it in a day, in 6 hours specifically, which is insane.
14 pages.
14 pages in 6 hours, multiple takes, because we kept running it top to bottom, even though we divided it up into scene 1A to 1D.
Yeah.
And we did it in chunks. There's so many times we were on a roll, and we just played it through to the end.
And for context, like the video, subscribe to the channel. For context, typically on shoots for shorts, feature lengths, even freaking TV shows, it's typically a page a day. Like one page.
Yep.
One day. We shot 14 in what, 6 hours?
In 6 hours.
In 6 hours.
Which came up then. Now, I wanted to point that out because there was not to jump ahead, but the Q&A following our block of screenings, we were one of 6 shorts to screen.
Yeah, you got your
in our block.
Scorsese on. I love this guy.
But also the thing is, the question was thrown out, like, was there a scene in particular that stood out that were asked of all the filmmakers?
Yeah.
And our short is one long scene. So the whole thing stood out, but I did also want to give credit to you guys in a public way, just to be like, we shot 14 pages in a day, specifically in 6 hours. But did you see the reaction of all the other filmmakers? Just like,
yeah,
what?
Everyone turned, like, so to give people like a visual. So at the premiere at Smodcastle, all the directors and major executive producers for all the shorts in the block that we were in, they all stood up in front of the audience, which was packed crowd. It was crazy.
It was 100 plus.
Yes,
it was great.
Easily. And they all went one by one telling the story of their, answering Q&A and telling the story of their particular works. When I got to Chris, of course, I chimed in with a question because I needed some self-aggregation of my own.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. He wanted his ass kissed in front of a crowd is what it was.
I had a lot of friends and
because
family
he saw
there.
himself on the big screen and he's like, I rocked it. I need credit.
I had some friends and family.
Even if I need to solicit it.
But we got to that part and it was, oh man, it was
the reaction from other filmmakers, like, what? And I was like, I know that never happens and it'll never happen again.
It's not supposed to happen.
So it's so it's a miracle that we got. It's so much so that, like, it took me a while to even absorb, like, after we shot it, like, I can't believe we did this in a day. Like, I know the idea was we can do this in a day, but the fact we actually pulled it off and that it came out as great as it did was insane. And look, I sat on the footage because at that point I was back in show mode. I was kicking off the first part of Cape in 2023.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to have a little distance from the footage because to dive right in, I would have been super picky. And I know I would have been very inhibited about it, including my performance too, because it did require not patting myself on the back, but I had to act because I don't have any funny lines. You have all the funny lines.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have jokes. I had to play it very, very straight. It's very contrary to what people have seen me do, which was part of the fun, was me playing against type.
Well, you had the Steve Harvey joke. That counts as a...
But your response to it wins out.
Right.
So that's it.
Right.
I do have a joke.
There's some off-cuff racism in this, so it's all good.
No, not, I mean, that is a joke written by me, so it wasn't like Hugo's not reading it. It wasn't one of the things you're just like, you know what this sounds, right? You know this is coming off a certain way. You really need to acknowledge it. I'm like, I acknowleded it from, that was in one of the early drafts. It was, I think that joke was in there when you first read it.
No, it was.
Okay.
It was
because it was written
funny.
for, Christian being, a man of color. I'm like, well, let's call it out. Why not? Because it's a funny moment. So with you being Ulysses, cast as Ulysses, I was like, well, that works.
For the premiere itself, let's just each share our major moment or major feeling from it. I mean,
I want to hear from you for sure because I think you were more nervous than I was on the night. Because you didn't even eat all day.
Yeah, well, yeah,
which was funny.
Part of that. Plus, just it was, well, we were both nervous. Like I could tell you were on 10 and I was on 10 too, because it's just kind of a big deal. I knew I knew my brother was going to be there. A lot of really, really close friends were going to be there.
Yeah, your girl was going to be there. You had a couple of day ones who were there.
Yeah. So
a lot of our mutual friends. I had a lot of friends who showed up. So literally there were 20 people who were there just for our short.
It wasn't really for the public. It was really, they've never really seen me in this light. They've only seen me from the music side and the podcast side and, from Harlem Wizard side and, the billion other hats that I wear and the producer side. But like as an actor on a screen in the theater, like it was new territory for me. So, but their response before the movie even started of just like, bro, like this is a big deal. This is a big deal. Like congrats a million times over. We haven't even watched it yet. And I was like, and I'm just like, well, I've seen it. I like it. I don't know if you're gonna like it. And so afterward, and then we go get drinks at the unofficial rap party, and it's
the post party.
Post party, and it's just like, it felt. And I told you this too. I pulled you aside before they kicked us out because we stayed till close. I was like, bro, this is such a win. This is just such a win for. All the projects and ideas and harebrained schemes that we've trying to put to get our stuff off the ground and to do stuff, right? And it's like we can look at it one way. I just told you, forget however, this is all good.
Yes.
This is all good. This is all good, and this is all pushing forward. This is pushing the boulder from Indiana Jones up the freaking mountain.
Uphill. Yeah, we're honestly pushing it up the mountain, which is it's a miracle that anything gets made at all. And we know that, having done so many projects and flexed our creative muscle in different ways over the years. And, it's one of the crazy things that anything gets made, and also that it goes anywhere, because like there was another short, there was an animated, somewhat historical comedy that was in our block, which is great, which got big laughs that I was frankly jealous of, because I was just like, man, they got huge laughs.
That was good.
I mean, all deserved though, like not in a bad way. I'm just like, God damn, they got the laughs.
That was good.
But that's the funny thing. So in the post-show Q&A for those guys, because it was an animated short, excuse me, people are saying, like, is this something you took to, take it to like Adult Swim or something? Is this going to absolutely be out there? And that's the funny thing. They said, well, we did. Number one, they said, I'm not trying to tell somebody else's story, but that's why I'm not calling out specifically what it was. But this is just in reference to the fact that it's amazing anything gets made at all. Like the stars need to align in an insane way for anything to get made. So the fact that we made it, we acknowledged it as a win. Yeah. Just the fact that we made this at all. But the director of this animated short said, well, we did. He's like, number one, they said you need historical accuracy. And I'm like, it's Adult Swim. Like, are you kidding? They don't even strictly do cartoons anymore. They got live action shows on there. They want to talk historical accuracy.
And anime.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, really? They're pulling for that? But one of the producers literally got cold feet and the project went nowhere. And everyone in the audience is like, what? Because it's true. Like, it played so well in the room, but all it takes is one person to be like, I don't know about this, and it falls apart.
There's a lot of variables that are in place. With entertainment, period. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of brass rings. So you're right. There's a lot of stuff that people don't realize are in play that can supersede. Well, that was great. That was brilliant.
Totally.
But if one out of 12 says no, who's a rainmaker,
that's all it could take. Yeah, one minority could just fuck it all up, and the whole thing could fall apart. And which is the drag about doing anything on that level. Which is why, again, for me, I'm just like, well, we're doing it for real to put it out there, but we have no control. And look, I was grateful when it came to the festival run, because we got, I got notified. It was actually on September 11th. I got the notification for, congratulations, you've been selected for the Smodcastle Film Festival.
Out of 2,500, can I get a round of applause?
Yes.
Out of 2,500 submissions,
100,
right?
100 got in. 4% got in.
4%. And this guy.
We. It's not just me. Again, I have to.
Your name's on it.
It is, but so is yours.
I know.
I wrote it. I directed it. I edited it. Yeah, I know. My name's on there 5 times in the credits. But still, like the fact that we got selected. Yeah,
I'm pulling your leg.
But the fact that the screening was in Jersey, the world premiere was that's festival speak. That's not ego speak.
Two Jersey natives,
exactly. For the world premiere to be in Jersey and for it to be at Kevin Smith's film festival and at his theater was a big deal, especially because he's been such a looming presence. The Cape universe exists very close to the View Askew universe.
Yes.
So that did mean something, which we're not related. That had nothing to do with, and nobody said this to me, but that was a concern, because I'm like, oh, people are probably going to think like, oh, they have mutual friends. Maybe that's something to do with it. No, there's actually a jury that watched all the films, that watched all 2,500 films, and then recommended them. And ultimately, Ernie is the one who picked them. And I don't know Ernie. I met him that night after the Q&A.
So, quick story. Probably about 2 or 3 weeks before the premiere, Christian he calls me. I'm in a meeting for the Harlem Wizards, so I can't answer. I call him back. He doesn't pick up. Then he texts me and says, yeah, so somebody saw the out and they wanted to know if you'd be interested in another role. And it turns out that was Ernie.
Right.
So Ernie, shout out to Ernie. Love you, dog. So he offers me a role just out of the blue, like an RKO, for a horror film, feature. Like we're talking not 14 pages of dialogue, 52 pages of dialogue. But my character doesn't have 14 pages. He has about
it's a horror movie and you're black, so you probably have 3 pages.
Yeah, give or take 4, 5. I counted.
I hope that joke's in there. If not, you and I'll work on it and shoehorn it in. Send me the script.
It's in there.
Okay, cool.
But no. So I of course said a million times yes after reading it. It was funny. I don't think it's meant to be funny, but it is unintentionally funny. But again, just showing how the stars align. That doesn't happen without the out.
Right.
That doesn't happen without our worlds colliding, without you introducing me to Christian. And by the way, sidebar on top of that, Christian is going to be, me and him have been coordinating behind the scenes on a world famous Harlem Wizards documentary as well.
He mentioned that, yeah.
So again, the meeting of the minds, you meet people that have not been attached to you. I saw this recently in a Facebook clip, and I put it in my story immediately. You meet people that are attached to you, and then you meet people that are assigned to you. It's two different.
I saw that. Yes,
yeah,
you
saw
shared
that.
that.
One too.
I saw
yes,
that. Yes.
Yeah, and this is for people out there too. People in your life are seasonal. Unfiltered, authentic conversations. We're going to take that. You meet people throughout life, and I know Chris has stories as well, as do I. We talk about them in detail, and I mentioned it when I came on your show. It's like you meet people throughout your story, and then you quickly realize, or sometimes it takes years to realize that, okay, you're here for the ride. You're just, what can you get out of me? And then the second I turn the faucet off, you're out of here. You're out of here. You can't get out quick enough.
Totally.
And then likewise, the opposite side of the coin, you meet people that are signed. They're supposed to be with you.
Yes.
Because they've got an empty bucket, and at the same time, they've got a full bucket. They got two. Versus somebody who's attached to you, they just have an empty one. What can I get out of you?
Yeah.
What can I get out of you? And then, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. No, like me and Chris, we both met with the two buckets, with an empty one and a full one. And how can I help what you're doing? How can you help what I got going on? How can we find, you got people? Oh, I got people. You got resources? I got resources. You got outlets and context? I got outlets.
You got
context.
ideas? I got ideas. Yeah,
exactly.
Let's work on it.
And that's how big, major, life-changing stuff happens when you meet people that are assigned to be in your life. Like this guy behind the glass, marvelous. He was born a day apart in February. Our birthdays are going to be crazy this year. Like we were assigned to be in each other's lives because nothing but great things have come from our relationship, from the relationships. And, this movie is a testament to that.
And it made me so insanely proud when you told me that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know it was that you said you got cast in something with the assist of Christian. I didn't know it was because of The Out. So the fact that, and that was the point. That was part of it, of all the goals and the hopes for what this was going to do for us, as far as let's put something out there to show, to flex more muscles, to show more of our range.
Yeah.
And it did. And the fact that somebody saw that and was like, I think this dude would be really good for such and such. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like that was a big part of it. So the fact that came out, I'm insanely proud.
Round of applause. All the cheesy 90s. Everywhere you look.
Oh my God. But really, like just knowing that, which, again, you told me about after the screening, was just like, that's incredible. That's the best hope, is that opportunities like that come out of this. Aside from the fact we were proud of it, which just to go back a little bit before, a couple weeks ago, we had a crew screening.
Yeah.
The four of us who shot the film.
Which was amazing.
You and I and Nick and Christian, and had a 4-hour discussion about it.
Yeah.
Which is the intention was this will be a Cape episode down the line. There's no way. It's all over the place and it's 4 hours. I would have to edit the hell out of it for it to be cohesive. So that'll just serve for promoting the film and for clips associated.
It'll be something. It'll be out there in its way.
It'll be repurposed. I use everything, as you well know.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll be using this episode. But anyway, it was amazing because Christian had seen it, but he was so like deep into post-production on Just Desserts. Like he watched it and he liked it, and that was it. The final locked picture of The Out. So to sit and watch it with the three of you and have you guys react to it the way you did was, I can't even tell you, was insane just to have it. Because you guys knew. You were there when we made it. You had all read it multiple times. You knew exactly what it was. So to see the finished product, and for all of you to just be so proud, and you in particular, you were practically speechless, which really like moved me, because I'm like, this practically as well as I do.
Yeah. My girl was asking me about this too. She's just like, what's it like to watch yourself up there? I think she said some version of that, and I was like, the first time, like before we did the talk at
just watching it on a TV,
just watching it on TV. I'm just like, this is trippy. Like this is like wow. Yeah, this is, it does. I know I'm someone else up there. Like I'm 100% in character. I don't talk like that. Some mannerisms here and there, some nuances, but for the 99.9% of it or 98.9%, I was like, that's not me. Like that's not how a regular conversation with me goes. I'm pragmatic like that. Yeah, I'm that guy in all my friendship circles. But I was like, that's not me. But seeing myself play dress up and be that was it was cool. It was different.
Yeah.
It was exciting. I think that in the theater aspect and watching it with you and watching with friends and family and whatnot, just seeing and then talking to all as many filmmakers as I could afterward about their process.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know, a few of them hopefully will be future guests. You know, it's just it's exciting to venture into that world. You know, because I'm always creating stuff, you know, and when you're creative and you're with other creatives, I mentioned this when I did the episode on yours the first time, it's refreshing.
Oh yeah,
because you both see the world through that lens, and it's interesting. It's fun.
And it was it was just on another level actually seeing it play in a theater and for a crowd.
Yeah.
For people who weren't there to see us is a whole other.
Yeah.
That was a whole other thing.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I've seen it, and look, I'll admit it. Because I didn't know how I was going to react to it, because I was just so full of gratitude for the opportunity, the fact that it was going to play. And I didn't know how I was going to react to the screening. So our screening block was at 9:30. I left about 7 to get to the festival because it was an hour to get there.
Yeah.
Around 5 o'clock, I turned the lights off in the apartment in the house and pulled it up on the TV and watched it. Because I was like, if there's anything in my system that needs to come out, I'd rather come out now in private, because I don't know how I'm going to react when I see this on the big screen. And I watched it, and I kind of sat quietly for about a minute after the credits were over, and then I cried. I'll admit it, just because I was like, this is real, this is happening, this is going to play for an audience. I'm just so, again, the fact that it happened at all, that it exists, is a win. The fact that it got selected by a festival is a win. And the fact that people laughed and applauded, which hadn't happened yet, but I thought, well, if nothing else, people will politely applaud, and I'll still be moved by that. But also sharing it with so many people, and I didn't realize as many people were going to show up as they did.
I didn't either. I had no clue.
The fact that there were 20, because I went and counted, like all in 20 people there to see just our film, is wild to me. So I mean, just all of the gratitude and all the everything was just like that's kind of how it came out of me. Like I sat and I just spent a few minutes crying, just like I can't believe this is real, because I didn't want to do that in the theater. That would have been weird.
Well, you're not alone in that sense. I showed the trailer to my dad because my dad's battling some. He's in rehab, battling some health issues right now, and he'll be home soon. Thank God.
Good.
I played him the trailer. I went to go shave him because he was looking like Red Fox in Sanford inside.
More like Fred Sanford.
Yeah. So after I shaved him, I played it for him. I just played him the trailer, and he was just like, "I'm proud of you," and he said that, and. Of course, I looked away. I pretended like I was watching CNN, like him, and I was like, "Yeah, this is coming from a guy who hasn't been the most supportive about my life decisions, even with a college degree,
right?
You know what I mean? But to have, I knew I was gonna have the reassurance from my brother and my mother and my partner and my friends and so forth. But to get it from him and get his approval was pretty cool. It's pretty cool, pretty full circle as well. So like. For something we created to resonate with others, but at the same time resonate with us who made it. I think that's kind of the point, right?
That was the thing that I didn't expect, because I had my reluctance in the first place to produce it, actually make it real, to actually film it and put it out there, because it was a personal story. I mean, even though it's based on a real story, it's not beat for beat. There's some creative license taken, of course.
Yeah,
but. The fact I got so much feedback from guys who saw it, who said, "I've had this exact conversation. I've had this happen I've talked to friends about stuff like this, or I've had women be honest with me about are you sure? Let me know this about."
That's how I teed it up to a lot of my friends who were asking about it, like mental health, masculine vulnerability, friendship, camaraderie, all that stuff. That's like the center of this. It's not just two guys shooting the shit. Like, there's a lot of deep stuff. And that was really the third element, because I mentioned two elements. That's kind of the third element that brought it home for me, because from reading it, I kind of gauged that's where you were going with the conversation. But then when you hammered it home and reaffirmed it, I'm just like, oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in, because I've had my out story as so many guys have, and to be able to express it, like, I can identify with this.
Right. Yeah. The Out. Are you in?
No, the sequel is The In.
Maybe.
Or The Out too. But
Funnily enough, they're actually I started writing a follow-up to it based on, because as I was processing the follow-up conversation I was going to have when I met up with her again.
You'll be talking with another friend, and then he'll get sick of it, and then I'll come in out of nowhere.
Oh my God.
And just happen to be there, and you're like, oh, Ulysses, glad you're here, bro. I'm out. Edgar's on some bullshit today.
Oh my God.
And I come sit down, I'm like, hey, buddy, tell me what's on your mind. And then, so yeah, there you are. I wrote like half of it. It just gave you a plot right
Exactly.
there.
Well, there's two versions of what would have been a sequel, and there was talk of a feature length, which is not, in the immediate future. There's too many ideas that are at the front of the line for this to be something like we're going to beat into. Because people have said that like this could be like your Whiplash. You make a short, because I think that original was like 11 minutes. And then it becomes a feature, and people are like, you can turn this into something. I'm like, yeah, I got so many other ideas, though, that I want to do. Like, I don't want to stick with this one idea necessarily.
Right.
It's something that could always be done down the line. It's something, that could be cast with other acters that I could just strictly write and direct.
No,
and
it'll come to pass when it's supposed to.
Totally.
God's time is the best time. It's always on time. I live by that. We're living proof of that. Round of applause for this guy one more time.
Oh.
And for us. I mean, we made a movie.
We won.
Listen,
the whole thing, it was an honor to have it screened at the festival, to be a part of this festival, have to be in Jersey. It was, I have to laugh actually, because it's one of those social media things where people are like honored and humbled. It's like, no. You're honored when you win. You're humbled when you lose.
Right.
And just the fact that people were saying just like, oh, I'm humbled by this experience. No, you're not. I'm honored we were selected for Smodcastle. I'm humbled by the fact there are 4 other festivals that did not select us.
And 2,500 people tried to get into this one, and then we got into it.
Exactly.
So
we were small. Like that's an honor.
No,
I'm honored to have been among the filmmakers. That's the insane thing about the festival. Like the vibe was great. Everyone was genuinely excited to be there.
There's a lot of good movies.
It was so much talent.
Projects.
Oh my God. And for the people who think like, and there's a lot of talk in people who are kind of jaded by entertainment because we're flushed with, to use tech speak, content. That's not how people actually talk.
We're in the most oversaturated period in the history of history.
At a point, at a point where like superheroes and Star Wars are fucked out, and they are. That's the conversation. Even Bob Iger had to be like, "You're diluting the brand." It's fucked out. That's the actual. That's how I speak. That's how I say it. But it's like there's so much talent out there, and so many other voices and styles you have not heard and seen. That was the encouraging part for me. And the inspiring part for me, I'm like, there's so much talent just in our block, but even the block Friday night that Just Desserts was a part of. And even talking to the filmmakers, like there was another shorts block that overlapped with ours that, we had the after party at the bar up the street. There was an after party at somebody's house that I went to until 4:30 in the morning.
If I wasn't working the next day at Wizard Game, we would have been there.
Exactly. Well, that's why I went, because I purposely, like, this weekend was open because I didn't know. There were awards and everything on Sunday. We weren't nominated, although we were submitted for screenplay. I will say I was told by one of the members of the jury that they did submit for screenplay. We didn't get the nomination, but that meant a lot again, because having written it, that was a big deal. Just even the idea that it was submitted for, I don't know if it was submitted for anything else, but the fact it was submitted for screenplay for possible award consideration was a big deal. But the other filmmakers whose block was running at the same time as ours, or at least partly overlapped with ours, I think they started like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Not getting to see their shorts, even just being able to talk to them and meet them at the after party.
Was that the comedy block? Because I think there was one that
theirs was mostly comedy, which ours was not.
And I would have.
It was a very mixed bag.
I would have loved to. So I have the program. I've kept like 2 or 3 copies of it.
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
gonna look up that other block, and when that stuff like material, I'm gonna try to see some of those.
Totally.
For sure.
Well, that's it. I hope we end up in festivals with a lot of these other filmmakers. That's kind of been the ongoing conversation. It's just like I hope we overlap at another one, because we met a bunch of people from Atlanta on Friday and Saturday. We have been submitted to the Atlanta Film Festival, so fingers crossed we get accepted. That's happening in, I believe, May. Either way, I'm going to go down there anyway, because they've all been super welcoming and like, you got to come down. They've given great feedback as far as the film, for the out. And I'm like, all right, great. I want to see what's going on down there anyway.
For sure.
But the fact that they've been so inviting and welcoming and supportive, I'm just like, well, I got to go check that out. But the hope is that we're going to play at some other festivals with these people. A bunch of them have sent me their films because we got to talk about our stuff, but we missed it, which, it's a great thing. There was so much talent there. The unfortunate thing is there were so many films that we didn't get to see all of them. Yeah. And that's kind of a drag. But a lot of them sent me their films, and I sent them the out as well. So we've been able to kind of talk to each other and be like, this is really good. I love. So again, kind of expanding the circle, finding more talented people to work with, and hoping other opportunities come from it, but also just being inspired. Like, wow, this is what other people are doing. Because even for the the other shorts that didn't move me. Still insanely talented people.
And,
I mean, the look and everything.
Like the quality, the talent.
Oh my God.
Quality. All right, so we got the wrap it up sign. We're gonna love you, Marv. So we'll end here. This with a version of rapid fire. This is rapid fire on the spot. This is a new segment to go with the regular.
I'm completely unprepared for this. This is literally on the spot. I didn't know we were doing this.
That's the point. On the spot. So I don't have prepared questions for this. This is
this is going to be really interesting.
This is the game of questions. Basically, you ask me a question, I ask you a question. I play it with girls all the time, especially when I'm single. But before we start, this episode of Rapid Fire on the Spot is brought to you by U-Goboy merch. Grab yourself some merch in the bio below. Cape, Chris Aballo's podcast Experiment. This guy right here with a nice jacket. The Out on all digital platforms soon. And select theaters.
Well, festival screenings. I mean, we're waiting. There's one more potential. I'm waiting to hear for one more in 2023.
Yes.
The rest are going to be in 2024, so we'll see. But as of now, fingers crossed. We get accepted to.
And last but not least, BTV Sports. I'll be filming shortly after this, after I take a nap and a volume. Okay, so real quick, rapid fire.
Yes.
On the spot. It's going to be only three. Three. Let's ride. All right, my first question to you is, where'd you get that jacket?
Thursday Boot Company.
Okay, your turn.
So, okay. Yeah, this is rapid, isn't it? Yes. Shit, I'm not good at that. Damn it! See, I actually showed up like
something's gonna show.
Something is gonna be okay. The first thing your lady said to you after the Out screened.
Oh my God, that was so good. in that voice.
I'll take that. I can do that.
Have your parents seen it yet?
They have. They said it was good, which is all I expected. I got into this, and I recently did an episode with one-on-ones with my parents, and I've never sought my parents' approval, so I wasn't expecting more than that. Other than like, why'd you write about that? Well, I was kind of seeing someone last summer. I never told you about it because it never went anywhere, But they've seen it. They said it was good.
Okay.
And that's it. That's kind of all I expected.
That's all I've seen.
So I'm not disappointed with the answer. Yes, they've seen it. People were bummed they weren't at the premiere, but I'm like, they're old, and it starts at 9:30, and it's an hour away from them. Like, come on.
All right, you bring it home with this one.
Okay. Where do you hope this? You know all the big festivals it's submitted to. Is there one that you hope we play at? Is there one that you're like, I would love for this to screen as part of what?
Oh man.
Because I submitted to the big ones: Sundance, South by Southwest.
Did you submit to Toronto?
Toronto Short Film Festival, not TIFF, because that happened in the fall, so we missed the deadline for that. The deadline for that was in spring. We weren't done yet. But I'll submit to TIFF next year.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. TIFF,
Toronto.
If not this one, something down the road. But
gotcha.
Yeah, because I still have never been to Canada.
Same.
Yeah.
Well,
so I'm sorry. I've been on a Connect flight. I haven't left the
Toronto Short Film Festival.
Yeah.
That we have been submitted to, but TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival. Yeah, we missed the window for that because that was in September, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, those entries closed.
All right. That was rapid fire on the spot.
Woo!
Okay.
We did it, kind of.
So where can people find you? And then I'll bring it on home.
You can find me, as the lower third will no doubt show, on Instagram at Chris Sells Out, and on what we have renamed Twix, courtesy of Vernon Reed from Living Color. Because it's no longer Twitter, but we're not going to give in to the dopey name it's now called. So Vernon Reed of Living Color has christened it Twix. So you can find me on Twix and TikTok at Chris Aballo. And follow the.out.film on Instagram and TikTok for clips from this, no doubt. Behind the scenes videos and footage and screening information, all that other stuff. So yeah, follow me, follow The Out, and Cape Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as well. New episodes every Monday through practically the end of 2023. And yeah. All right. Fine. Subscribe, follow, like, share.
All good stuff. Bells, whistles.
Exactly.
Drops. And me.
Applause. Dr. Marco.
And me. You know what to do. U-Goboy88. That's on everything. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. U-Goboy, u-goboy.com. And of course, U-Goboy Media. That's the channel for the podcast. U-Goboy88. That's the channel for the music. And of course, go stream U-Goboy music. Jonah the Great, Juice vs. Sauce, 5-Star Dancer, Bruce Wayne Money, Tippin' all the time. Whole Vibe, Ezoku, and Captain Planet. Now streaming on all digital platforms. New video on the way. Round of applause one more time. Grab the merch. And I'll bring it on home like this. That's the belts. That's the other belts. That's an amazing jacket that probably didn't cost him much. He's got great hair.
Bullshit.
That's Chris Aballo. Marv's on the boards. I'm U-Goboy. Love you guys. Yahtzee. Yeah, nigga, I'm flexing. Richard Sherman, I back it up. And your mama, I stack it up. Hey, Poppy, yo, Gotti, swear to God, I rack it up. Still Jersey, that's all day.
You go, boy.
Yahtzee.